Now let's define a couple of terms that will get us started. First, a work of art is the visual expression of an idea or an experience that an artist forms with skill through the use of a medium. A medium is any particular material that is used to create a work of art. Artists today can choose from a wide variety of media, which is plural for the word medium. When an artist works with more than one medium in a single piece of art, it's called mixed media. When looking at art, we must realize that it communicates ideas that go far beyond verbal language. Art deals with thoughts, feelings, and observations, none of which can be fully described using words. One intended goal of this class is that you walk away with a greater awareness of how art infiltrates your daily lives and how it continues to play a meaningful role in our contemporary culture. We will now discuss the different purposes of art, the first of which is art for communicating information. We've all heard the expression, "a picture is worth 1,000 words." This is true because images have a profound ability to tell stories in ways that words simply cannot. Due to mass illiteracy in medieval Europe, churches such as the Chartres Cathedral in France began the tradition of including stained glass windows that illustrate scenes from the Christian Bible. Even if the devotees could not read the stories through written language, they were able to read them through visual language. The term iconography refers to the study of symbols and their meanings. It is usually specific to a certain group of people at a certain time in history. In the example of this nativity scene, medieval European viewers would have understood which figure is that of Mary because of the symbolic blue robe that she is often depicted wearing. Although a much greater portion of our society can read written language today, we still rely a great deal on visual language to interpret our world. It can be found everywhere from street signs to advertisements, and it presents a much faster way of absorbing information. In the context of the sign, if it was spelled out in written language, we might pay closer attention to the text than to the pedestrian. Many cultures incorporate art and design into their daily lives through embellished functional objects. What we display around us makes a statement about our tastes, who we are, and what we value. This 10th century Iranian plate displays a beautifully crafted design that would have served to enliven the mealtime of its owner. Some functional objects are obviously more lavish than others. This gilded object, designed by the Renaissance artist Cellini, is an elaborate salt cellar. In this time, salt was a commodity that not everybody could afford. This object would have been displayed to hold salt and, in turn, to show off the wealth of the owner. Here is an example of a breastplate that is used in the Jewish tradition to adorn and protect the scrolls of their holy text, the Torah. Although it's just as ornate as Cellini's salt cellars, its precious metals are intended to reinforce the significance of the scrolls that it protects. Even the buildings we inhabit can be works of art. This is a very famous private home built by the 20th century architect Frank Lloyd Wright. Wright's architecture took pride in its marriage of aesthetics and utility. The Guggenheim Museum in New York City is another example by Frank Lloyd Wright of art blended with function. The even slope of its corkscrew design is intended to not distract the viewers with stairs or corridors as they observe the art that's being displayed within. Frank Gehry's Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, Spain, on the other hand, is more akin to the opulence of Cellini's salt cellar. Some have criticized this structure, saying that no works of art displayed within its walls could ever compete for attention with the building itself. Many societies have used art for a spiritual or magical purpose. One example of this would be the cave paintings found in Lascaux, France. They were made by early humans nearly 16,000 years ago. Little more is known about their origins, though. They may have been merely decoration for the caves or documentation of successful hunts. It's also possible that these ancient people felt that by depicting the animals they hunted, they could pay homage to the animals' spirits and possibly even influence the success of future hunts. Western artists have a long tradition of depicting spirituality through their work. This painting by Paul Gauguin, called Vision After the Sermon, depicts a group of nuns having a collective vision of this biblical subject. Gauguin's use of unnatural color helps to reinforce the otherworldly nature of the events that he's describing. Many artists create work as a means of personal exploration. Throughout his life, the 17th century Dutch artist Rembrandt van Rijn created countless self-portraits. They spanned from the whimsical young man without a care in the world, to the confidence of a wealthy artist who's at the top of his game, to the final reflections of a destitute and frail old man. Through this intimate self-exploration, Rembrandt transcended simple self-portraiture and was able to tap into something that is more like a universal human expression. Artists can also make work that expresses their cultural experience. Romare Bearden was an African-American artist who spent his childhood in rural North Carolina. He moved to New York City in a time when the African-American community there was in the midst of its Harlem Renaissance. Bearden uses collage to harness the energy that he heard in the jazz music of the time and that he felt on the streets of Harlem. A contemporary African-American artist who's exploring similar themes of cultural identity is Kehinde Wiley. Wiley borrows patterns, poses, and techniques from the traditional French paintings that he observes, but invigorates these paintings with portraits of men from contemporary urban black society. In his work, he is trying to reconcile the culturally exclusive history of European art with the culturally inclusive world of the contemporary fine arts. Many artists use their work as a venue for making social or political statements. The early 19th century artist Francisco Goya established his reputation as a court painter for the King of Spain. When Napoleon's troops invaded Spain in 1808, Goya's work shifted to documenting the atrocities that the French soldiers carried out on his Spanish countrymen. These images, gruesome even by today's standards, were created to criticize the acceptable war practices of the time. He hoped that by doing this, he could promote social change. Here's a more current example of art for social purposes created by Felix Gonzalez Torres. His piece from 1990, entitled Death by Gun, reproduces the images of every American victim of gunfire in the period of 1 week in 1990. To present this piece, he placed the large stack of these photocopies in the gallery and invited viewers to take a sheet home with them. In this way, he is making the viewer an active participant in his art. To quote the artist, he says, "I need the public to complete my work. I ask the public to help me, to take responsibility, to join in." The final type of art, which is often in direct opposition with political and social art, is art for visual delight. This is probably what most people associate with the tradition of the Western fine arts. Works such as this painting of sunflowers by Vincent van Gogh aim to delight you with images that make you feel nothing short of warm and fuzzy inside. Although there have been many artists over the course of Western art history who have tried to undermine the importance of beauty in the fine arts, beauty always finds a way to creep back into popularity. Contemporary Japanese artist Yayoi Kusama continues the tradition of art for beauty's sake. She creates elaborate environments, or what we call installations, like the one depicted, that surround the viewer with large, fun shapes and bright, exciting colors. The artist would like you to think of this piece like it's a children's ball pit for grown-up art lovers.